Hi everyone, this is Monica, and today I wanted to show you how I created this really cute little crown ornament. Isn't that sweet? And I love the fact that you can either hang this if you put a hanger on it, or it's flat on the bottom so you can just set it down on a dresser or on a table or somewhere just to be decorative, maybe on a little shelf somewhere. So to start with, let's just talk about the different things you're going to need. First of all, you're going to use a half ball shaped foam piece. And you'll need to decide what pattern you want to use on the top of your ornament. I used the windmill pattern. All of those windmill pieces sort of come and meet here in the middle, and I just really like the look of that. So, use whatever pattern you feel is best, but windmill really is the one that, for me, set off this elegant topper. So choose your pattern, and then you'll need however much fabric you would normally use for your ornament. You'll need about that same amount of fabric, because even though you're not doing the bottom side of a round ornament, you're still going to need fabric to cover the bottom, and you're going to need fabric or ribbon or whatever you want to use to do these little points around the crown. So you'll need about the same amount of fabric as you normally would for a round ornament. And then decide whatever sort of embellishments you want. I used a lot of these pearl head pins all over the ornament, and I used, of course, the beads here in the middle, and little beads and embellishments around the side, like these little silver beads. I used several of these, and here's some of the larger beads that I used. And I also used some little acrylic type gems. You can buy these at Walmart or online. They're just little acrylic gems that have a flat back, and you can use craft glue to attach them. I used Beacon 3-in-1 glue and just attached various little gems all over the different crowns that I made. So you'll need embellishments. You can also, as another option, use these adhesive type gems. They already have like an adhesive type of backing, but sometimes those don't stay very well on the fabric. So you might have to just encourage them to stay on your ornament with a little dab of glue. So anyway, those are options as well. And one more important thing that you are going to need in order to make the topper at the top of your crown that has all the beads stacked on top, you're going to need a very long pin. Now, I found a couple of long pins. These floral pins here on the right, I found at Walmart. They're 3-inch long pins, and you can get a lot of beads on that. And then I also found these 2.5-inch corsage pins at Michael's, and those were really pretty because they have an extra large crystal type bead here on the top, so that's an option. Now, if you don't have anything like that available, you can certainly use these pearl head pins. You're just not going to be able to stack quite as many beads on here as you would if you had a very long pin. Now, be careful if you use these long pins. Depending on the depth of your styrofoam piece, make sure you have enough beads on there stacked that it's not going to push all the way through the bottom of your ornament. You don't want that poking out the bottom. So just test it and verify that you have enough beads stacked. To make the crown, I used a half round shaped foam piece. Now, half round ball is kind of a mouthful to say, so we have just shortened that, and we've started calling this shape a hemi because that's short for hemisphere. And hemi is just a lot more fun to say than half round ball shaped piece of foam. So get a hemi. Now, Stacy has these available on the Ornament Girl website. These are 3.5 inches across, and these are the soft foam that are easy to push pins into, so these work really great. If you can't wait for your order and you want to run out to the store and buy something now, there are other hemis available. I found this at a local craft store. This is the Smooth Foam brand. Now, remember, the Smooth Foam brand are the ones that have the big hole in them, and they also are a lot more dense, so they are a little more difficult to push pins into, but that's another option if that's all you can find. Walmart happened to have this rough hemi. This is a 4-inch half ball, and so it's a little larger, and you're going to have to cut your pieces just a little bit larger if this is the size that you go with. Your pieces of fabric will need to be just a little bigger to cover all of it, but that's another option as well. So choose whatever hemi works best for you. In fact, I'll show you this large one. I'm not even sure where I bought this one from, but this is like 4.5 inches across. This is the Floorcraft brand, 4.5. I mean, that's going to make a huge crown. So maybe that's the size you want to go with, and you would definitely need to increase the size of your fabric pieces for something this size. So anyway, find a hemi that works for you, and then you can get started. I wanted to show you a couple of fun variations that I did with this crown idea and hopefully inspire you to other ideas that you can come up with. I did a princess version here, and we'll talk about that. And I also did an ice princess version. Now, on the ice princess one, I was inspired by the movie Frozen, and I found some fabric that had Elsa and Anna on it. and I wanted them on the bottom of the ornament. So, you know, you could do this idea with any kind of fabric, whatever you want to sort of showcase on the bottom, or you could certainly do like on the princess version here, you could do like a little girl's monogram, or maybe her name and her birthday, or a picture. You could use printed fabric and do a picture of her or both of you together, you know, something like that, a special message or logo. Or if you have a personal cutting machine where you can cut heat transfer vinyl, you could certainly do something like that and cut a special vinyl message and use your iron to put that on the fabric before you place it on the ornament. You might notice that my princess crown is sitting on this cute little tulle pillow. This is actually just a bow that I found at Hobby Lobby one day in the gift wrapping section. It's just meant to go like on a gift, and I think you're supposed to fluff it up so it's like rounded, but I just kept it flat because I thought, isn't that just such a cute little pillow for me to set my crown on? And it doesn't look hard to make. You could just take a bunch of tulle, gather it in the middle, and it's held together with a cable tie right there in the center. So not hard to do, and it sure looks cute when your crown is sitting on it. So that's an idea. Another idea that you could do with things on bottom is to find a fabric that has like something like this, like a medallion on it. I love this fabric. Mine is actually a little off center, but I love this medallion, and I thought, boy, that was really pretty to just sort of showcase that on the bottom of the ornament. So this is one that's a work in progress, but I like this idea of finding some kind of fabric that you love, a particular element of it, and showcasing that on the bottom. The following tip that I'm about to show you, I wish I would have known it when I first started making these unicorn ornaments, because from now on, I'm going to use this tip when I make these and also when I make the crowns. So the tip is, when you begin your ornament, you start on the bottom and you have to cover the bottom with the fabric, right? So you are going to have a piece of fabric that's a little larger than the width of your foam, because you want that to be able to wrap up and around the side of your hemi. But before you place the fabric on there, I have started cutting a small piece of batting. Now, I'm not a quilter, so I can't tell you exactly what kind this is. It's just some that I happen to have from some project a while ago. So I actually doubled it over. It was kind of thin, so I doubled it over and I just placed it on the bottom of the ornament, and I pinned it right in the center just to hold it in place. And then I just trimmed around with scissors. Now, you don't have to be perfect, but as long as you're, you know, sort of have the general round shape. And then I place my fabric on top of the batting, and that just sort of gives it like a pillowy appearance. So just that little bit of batting on bottom really does do wonders. I think it just adds a little something. So once you have that in place, you know, center your fabric right on top. Make sure, especially if you have some sort of embroidery on here, or like, for instance, this one, like a particular thing you're showcasing, make sure it is centered right in the middle. And you may need to place a pin right in the center to keep it centered, okay? You don't want that off. In fact, this one's off. I sort of didn't center it very well. It's a little bit off. So make sure your picture or your monogram or your embroidery message, whatever, is centered right in the middle. Luckily, this one, it doesn't matter because it's all the same pattern, so we're not going to worry about that too much. So what you're going to do is you're going to begin to place pins in pairs. Wrap the fabric around the side and pin it, not right at the edge. You want to be up just a bit, maybe, you know, half an inch up. And then you're going to go across and do the same thing on the opposite side. Now you want it pulled tight. You don't want it pulled so much that it's stretching and distorted, but you certainly want it pulled, you know, with a little bit of tension there, so it's nice, going to be nice and flat. Okay, now you've done the top and the bottom. Let's do the sides. And you will just continue to add these pins around in pairs. That seems to work best, and it keeps everything straight. If you just kind of start on one side and work your way around, it's going to be off kilter just a little bit. So make sure you work in pairs. And after your first 4 pins are in place, you've got the 4 corners here, then just begin to fill in between. Now I'm going to go ahead and finish this working in pairs, and then I will come back and we'll talk about the next few steps. Okay, the bottom of the crown is now covered. I have pins just running all along the side here, holding it in place. And before we go on, I wanted to show one other little tip. When I created my Queen of Hearts crown here, I ended up using a smooth foam ball, the ones that are dense that I don't really recommend, but I have a supply of those that I'm really trying to use up, so that's why I chose it. But I found that when I was done and I had done the bottom just like this, that, you know, that hole that is in the center of the smooth foam ball, I've thought about, you know, if I can take one of these pearl-headed pins and just pin it there right in the center, right where that hole is, it will sink down underneath this flat surface here, it'll go down and give it like a little bit of a tufted look. And I really like that. So if you think the tufted look is sort of what you're going for, you might consider using that smooth foam ball because it does have that hole in the middle. That's a nice little detail that I thought was really cute. So once you have the bottom covered, then it is time to go ahead and do the pattern on the top of your ornament. When you do that, let me show you here. As you bring your fabric pieces down, you don't want to bring those fabric pieces all the way to the edge of your ornament. You really want to stop about, quarter inch to half an inch, somewhere in there right here before the edge, because if you bring those pieces all the way to the edge and you're trimming along, some of those little frayed edges, the raw edges, are going to peek through when you put your band around this edge of the ornament. They really tend to just kind of try to peek through. So, do yourself a favor and just bring it up here just a little bit and end those pieces before you get to the edge. So once all of your pieces are in place and you have your pattern done, then it's a matter of just placing these little points all the way around your ornament. You can do a couple of different folds for those. Now, you can use just a regular size 2-inch by 3-inch piece of fabric. This is the same size of piece that you would use for, say, the basic star ornament. So you can use that and fold it as you normally would. Fold the top down and then fold it in just like the triangle fold where you bring both sides down and they meet and overlap slightly here in the middle. Or you can use the prism fold. If you want your points to be thinner and more pointy, then you would do a prism fold where you bring that edge, that first edge in just a little farther, and it forms more of a triangle. Instead of a wide-based triangle, it's sort of a narrow-based triangle. And you could use that instead. Before you place it, if you do use the prism fold, you're going to want to trim that excess off, and that will give you a nice straight edge. And that straight edge, then you would just align it with all those cut edges. So line up all the edges, because all those edges are later going to be covered up with a band. So once you get that in place, you would pin it a couple times, and then you just continue to work your way around the ornament. I like to use this prism fold like this on 7 of the points, but then here in the front, where I want the piece to look a little bigger and to sort of be emphasized, I use the triangle fold, the one that we did a minute ago. So just bringing it down and just slightly overlapping it there in the middle. That's the one I use for the front because it gives it a wider base and sort of gives it more presence. So let's pretend that I have placed all 7 of those little points, the prism shaped points around, and I'm at the very front. Now I'm going to use this triangle fold, reverse it so I can see the little motif on the front, and place it. You're going to center that piece right in the middle of this section of the windmill ornament. So all the points are sort of pointing here to the middle, and you just have them all lined up. And here's the center. You're going to align each of these pieces on the bottom with that trimmed edge that runs all the way around your hemi, okay? So line up all these raw trimmed edges and then pin it in the center because you don't want those folds coming undone. And then you don't want it to be pivoting one way or another either, so you're going to pin the sides as well. Now, if you are happy with how that looks, then you can be done. Here, for instance, with my princess crown, I just wanted just this one large piece in the middle, and I embellished it, and I was happy. But I wanted a little extra something on my Queen of Hearts crown, so I actually did a second layer of this triangle fold here in the back. I did a second color. I used ribbon, this iridescent ribbon, and I folded it in the same way. I just folded that top edge down, and I did a triangle fold like this, so it just overlaps a little bit, and then I reversed it, and I pinned it here behind the first piece. I just kind of folded that down and worked behind, and I didn't put it right down at the same height of my first piece. I brought it up just a little bit so it would sort of stick up and above that previous piece. So I folded the center, and then I actually I pinned the center and I pinned the sides. Now, I did have to move some of the points on either side. I kind of bent those down as well. But that gives it a little more of an emphasis because you have now 2 layers, and then you can embellish them however you want, either placing, pearl head pins in the points or gluing different gems on or whatever. That's how you can kind of help emphasize the front of the crown. I hope you've enjoyed this little video and it has inspired you to create all kinds of fun little crown ornaments. If you are an Ornament Girl Club member, please be sure to post a picture of your crown on the club Facebook page. We would love to see your version.